Welcome to episode 245, 5 Hard Things Leaders Must Face and Become Skilled at to Succeed. Welcome to the Be That 1% podcast. I'm your host, James Silvis, mindset specialist and performance coach. And here on the show, I'm going to challenge you to think deeper, commit to greatness, and develop a stronger mindset. You'll hear stories from those who are living life on their terms, and you'll receive strategies that will help you level up. So the question is, are you ready to be your own 1%? Let's get started. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Be That 1% podcast. This is the first episode of Season 6. Crazy to think that I've been doing this for 6 years now, or 6 seasons, I should say. Super grateful, blessed, excited. I still remember putting out the first episode, which is pretty wild. And it's come a long way. My level of awareness, the content, although maybe similar, has become more specific, and I'm just grateful for the whole journey. Thank you for being a part of this with me and for tuning in each week to hear what the learnings are, right? That help us go from where we are to where we want to be, and double down on the things that are important to us. Being that 1% is all about aligning your life to who you are, who you want to be, your values, being the best version of you, because you're one of one. And the more you play your game, the more fulfilling life becomes. So to start off season 6, we're going to go into a form of leadership and what the challenges are that you're bound to face as a leader of a team, of a business, even of a family, right? Like, leadership can show up in so many different ways, but these 5 things have been common patterns that I've seen in my experience, having worked with high-level leaders for the last 9 years in over 10 plus countries. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to notice patterns, right? And these are the patterns. And so I'm going to go through each of them, and we'll briefly talk about why they're important, why you should know them, and how to work through them, and what's the benefit for you, right? So the first thing that you're bound to encounter as a leader is embracing and getting skilled at having hard conversations. Hard conversations help resolve issues and conflicts. They can improve communication and trust. They can help set clear expectations, give proper feedback, lead to growth and development, and help prevent misunderstandings and miscommunications. These often come with a great level of discomfort, emotions that, if we don't choose to look at, can wreak havoc in our ability to lead and to hold people accountable and to call people forward. And if you're a leader who wants to create impact and influence and change and do something meaningful, leave a legacy that people will remember by how you were able to make them feel, you're going to have to get really good at having these types of conversations. You're not always going to want to say what needs to be said, but that's irrelevant whether you want to or not. It's what's required. Leaders need to be able to facilitate these deep, meaningful conversations to exchange the information necessary for both parties to grow. And I'm writing a book in 2023. Some of you may be excited to hear that. And it's all about communication. And it's fun. It's founded on my experience having, been in so many different diverse situations, coaching leaders, being in conversations with leaders, and my experience of what it takes to have a deep, meaningful, transformative conversation, and all of the mindsets, skill sets, strategies, and knowledge needed to make that happen. So stay tuned for that. But hard conversations are definitely something you'll want to do. And it strengthens a culture. It helps produce higher levels of quality in whatever it is that you're putting out into the world. And it makes you a better communicator. And I think as humans, we have a responsibility to be the best communicator that we can, because it opens the door to so many things. It enriches life when we're able to express how we feel, to ask for something that we need, to articulate what someone else needs and what they're trying to say so that they can feel seen, heard, and understood. Anywhere you slice it, when humans are dealing with humans, conversation, the more skilled both parties are, the better that conversation is. Yes, it'll be challenging. It definitely will be uncomfortable, but both of you will come out stronger on the other end. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to have to make hard decisions. You're going to be faced with tough choices that have significant consequences for you, the organization, for the team that you're leading. But these decisions need to be made in a long-term thinking lens, right? Your ability to reason and almost foresee what things are going to happen and go and act on that, to trust your gut sometimes, or to trust the numbers, right? And draw the line. Hard decisions demonstrate leadership and decisiveness. They lead the team to growth and progression. They help foster a culture of accountability, right? And decisions they can be scary because no one's certain of where that decision is going to be, is where it's going to lead you. We can maybe slap a label on it. Yeah, if you make this decision, chances are it's going to be a good decision because of the data we have from the past, but there's still an element of uncertainty. And as humans, we don't deal well with uncertainty. And so as a leader, you're going to have to get really comfortable with navigating that because it's something that's not going away. The only thing certain about uncertainty is that it will certainly happen, right? And in the face of that uncertainty, when you don't have access to all the information, you're going to still have to make a decision, and you'll have to live with that decision. And some people continue to make the same decision over and over and over, thinking they don't have options. Some people make the same decision over and over and over because they're waiting for the data that they'll never have to feel comfortable with leaping, and that will never be. Decisiveness shows initiative, right? It shows that you have the courage to stand for something. And that's important when embodying leadership because people need that for direction. So understand that it comes with the territory, and whatever decision framework you use or whatever skills you feel you need to sharpen in order to strengthen this skill, put the time and energy into that. And through that, you could probably teach other people how to make better decisions as well through your example. Okay, the third is facing criticism. By definition, a leader is someone who goes first, trailblazes, goes down the path very few have ever been, or the path that most people fear to go down, right? And by going first, they naturally experience all the bugs and the kinks and have to work their way through that. And with that comes mistakes and different points of view. And when you firmly lead someone or something into a certain direction, you give birth to opposites. Some people are going to be for your courage to stand for something, and other people are going to be against. Even some of the greatest leaders of all time had haters, had people who were able to criticize and try and throw shade on someone's, progression or journey. It's just part of the game. This criticism can come from your parents. This criticism can come from your friends, your family. It can come from your employees. And part of being a really great leader is being able to sift through that feedback to pull out what's necessary for you to hear, but also to block it out to stay on course. Because no one's going to understand your vision more than you. And if you're the leader leading by your vision, through your vision, then there's no one you can really outsource that confidence to to trust what it is that only you can see, right? And so you have to go off of your feeling, right? It feels aligned. You have to go off of your logic. There's a need that I'm solving here. There's a problem I'm solving. There's a greater good that this action that I'm pursuing is creating. And you got to really focus on those things and have a strong purpose, something bigger than you, a clear vision of what's driving you, or else the noise is going to get to your head. And one of my favorite quotes, I'm going to paraphrase it, is the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats, right? And that's another word for saying that people who are the loudest are the people who are not in the arena, to use to make a reference to a term by the Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. When selecting feedback, you only want to hear feedback from people who are doing what you're doing, or who are doing what you want to do, or you're inspired by, right? Because they're in it with you. They understand. People who are on the outside, they don't understand. And so they're going to come from a completely different perspective. It doesn't make it wrong. It's not aligned. And as a leader, you only have so much time, so much energy to do work, right? Which means you got to be as clear as you need to be to lead effectively, and not allow noise or confusion to interfere with your communication and your belief and conviction in whatever it is that you're moving towards. So be ready to face criticism. Number 4, delayed gratification. You'll often hear leadership is a thankless job. And it can be. And part of that is when you get to a certain level of skill, people just start expecting you to produce that level of skill because it's so consistent. You've been doing it time and time again, and it just becomes something that's expected, and it's an obligation, right? And so when something is expected, very few people appreciate or show gratitude for it. It's just like, what is? And so there's an aspect of that comes with leadership. But on another note, it's like, if you're only doing the work to get praise, to get acknowledgement, to get notoriety, to get attention, that's going to be very short-lived, and your power is going to be outsourced to other people. As a leader, the work you do needs to be rooted in a strong purpose and in the process, because the process is the only thing that you can control, and also the process is really the only thing that you're going to experience a majority of the time. The outcome that you're working towards is just a small blip on the radar. Otherwise, you're back in the process. And so with the delayed gratification, you got to be willing to put in short-term pain for long-term pleasure. Sacrifice now for later. And sacrifice can show up in many different ways, but you're not going to be rewarded. You often get rewarded in public, if you do get rewarded, for what you do in private when no one's watching. That's the character building that you'll need as a leader to have the conviction you need to speak about the things that you're demanding from your team, or from the relationships that you have in your life. You're the only one that knows where you're cheating corners, where you're doing things for the wrong reasons. And if you are rooted in clear, strong morals and values, then that's the reward. The reward is you're living in alignment. You're living in integrity with who you say you are. That's something no one can take away from you. That's what gives you the confidence. You're putting in the daily deposits of you 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and it's priceless. That translates to so much greater level of attention to detail in the things that you do. But it does take a delayed gratification approach. And in a culture where we're so dopamine rich, of like dopamine hits here, dopamine hits there, it really calls for a leader to manage distraction and focus on what matters, which is the purposeful work. Okay, and 5, the hard thing that a leader may have to do is receive help. Now, this is hard. This one has been hard for me, and I've had to work on this. But naturally, I think leaders want to serve. They want to add value. They want to give to someone or something. And so it can quickly turn into a one-sided thing where you're the only person that's doing it. You're the only person that's giving it. You're the only person that's serving or leading or whatever, and you're not necessarily receiving. And when we're not receiving, we're robbing other people of feeling what we feel when we help others. And sometimes we can feel that by asking for help, we lower our status, or it's a symbol that we couldn't do it on our own, or that we're less than, because if we were more than, we should have been able to figure it out. And these are all stories that I know I personally have had to work through. And it really takes a team to achieve something great. You can't do everything on your own. You've heard that before, but it's so accurate. And you wouldn't want to, because then you wouldn't appreciate everything that you're working for. Part of what makes life so meaningful is who we share it with. Think about any time you've had something happen to you, a celebration, like something good happened to you. What's the first thing you do? You want to tell somebody about it. You call someone. When something bad happens to you, what do you want to do? You want to call someone, talk about it. Like, we need that level of connection. Well, that also shows up in the form of receiving help. People want to help you, but maybe you're not letting them, or you're not empowering them to do so. You block that off because maybe it will lead to a connection which opens up the door for vulnerability, which means that someone could stab you in the back or hurt you or leave you or, know too much about you. And we got to really examine that, because if we allow people to help us, it only strengthens our ability to help them and anyone else. And giving and receiving is a circle. It's a loop. If you chop off one part of that circle, there's no flow anymore, which means you can get burnt out more easily. There's a disconnect. There's a break in the chain. And the stronger that chain, the stronger that loop, giving, receiving, it can amplify in a beautiful, organic way and be the bedrock of a really healthy relationship or culture. So allow people to help when they ask. And even before they ask, maybe you ask, hey, I need help with this. Can you help me with this? And present opportunities. And my bet is that when you do that, you'll start offloading some things that maybe you don't need to do anymore, that you can empower someone else to do, that then they have another level of responsibility that brings about more engagement and presence from them, and now they feel more part of the team and part of the unit, and everyone is clicking and moving with purpose. So these are the 5 things that I've noticed that leaders really need to get skilled at. And maybe one of these resonated more than the other, but I would encourage you to really sit with this, meditate on this, journal about this. What area do you need to focus more in? Is it conversations? Is it decisions? Is it the criticism? Is it the delayed gratification, learning to see long-term rather than always short-term? Or is it the help, receiving help, right? If you could really develop a great level of awareness in each of these areas, and also an 8 or higher out of a 10 scale of 10, you're operating pretty good, right? So implement this however you see fit. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And if you got value from this episode, share this with someone who you think needs to hear it, right? We're all leading in some way, first ourselves, then others. And so this could be a useful framework for you to continue to do the work, even at a deeper level. All right, so much love. Go out there, be your own 1%. See you on the next one.